Date is 22nd of May 2026. This is a meeting of the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board. And I'll call this meeting to order. The time is exactly 10 o'clock. Madam Administrator, could you read the land acknowledgement, please?
In this spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect the history and living culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. We recognize that these lands are the territories of the Chippewa of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the keepers of this land. Georgian Bluffs is located on lands encompassed by treaties 45.5, 67, 72, 82, and 93. We reflect on our role as true people and the need to live in respect and peace and show respect for the First Peoples who inhabit these lands and waters.
Does any member have a pecuniary interest to declare? None? Thank you. I recommend that the agenda be approved as presented. Is there a mover? Vice Chair moves, and seconder. Rella seconds it. Any discussion? None. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Passed. I'll defer to Commander Arthur to lead the discussion with respect to the action plan commitments.
Good morning, everyone. I believe everyone received a copy of the 2026 to 2029 Detachment Action Plan. It was sent out, I believe, and it's already been created. So today is just a matter of selecting up to 5 of the commitments that the board would like to prioritize for the coming year. So there's commitments under crime, roadways, waterways, and trails, and also community well-being.
Anything further?
No.
No? Do we go into closed session at this point?
You, Chair Solarsh, if you wanted to discuss, I believe the intention was discuss the 5 priorities the board would like to choose in open. So if you'd like to do that at this time, you have the opportunity.
Yes. I'm sorry, Member Ellis, I thought you were saying. Yes, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm not sure why we're discussing open versus closed at this point. My understanding is the only closed item.
Yeah. 1 sec. Okay, try it again. Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused. My understanding is the closed session has to do with performance appraisal, a routine check-in, and that what we're doing right now is open session selecting the priority items for 2026. Not sure why we would, how we would be justified to go into closed session at this time.
Madam Administrator, you're saying
Through
something?
you, Chair Solarsh, yes, that member Councillor Coburn is correct. That is the intention, that we would complete this discussion is in open, as it doesn't fall under an open meeting exemption.
Okay, so this part of it for sure is in open session, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and what's next? Where are we going with this?
So it's up to the board to have the discussion on which of our commitments that we've set for the 2026 to 2029 time period, which up to 5, the board would like to see the OPP prioritized for the first year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Kathy had something to say there, sorry?
No, I could let Carl go ahead. He's probably going to say something similar anyway. So go ahead, Carl.
On that.
You never know.
Thanks, Commander Barfoot. Understanding how close you are to the day-to-day policing issues in Grey Bruce and knowing the priorities that have been laid out in this 2029. Are there specific areas that you feel strongly we should be focusing time and energy on? And if we could get your perspective from the front line, so to speak.
So it's a little confusing because this is for the detachment commander feedback. That's what these 5 priorities are for, to select 5 to put on there. However, we've made these as our commitments for the upcoming years, so these are all going to be priorities for us. So it's just kind of an awkward process, I would say, because we're selecting 5, up to 5 to go on the performance feedback form. But really, I would say these are all priorities because we've selected them as our priorities for the upcoming years.
I guess one of the challenges, and I haven't done the math today, but there's probably 20 or more priorities on here. And so as an individual, as the commander, it must be difficult to have 20 things on your plate in any given day or any given year, if that's what we're looking at. Are there a handful of things on here that you feel you can make a material impact on in your role as commander? And obviously, how can we support you in doing that? But are there things on here that you as commanders say, I can make a difference in this, and then we can look at it from there?
Sure, like I would hope that I can make an impact on all of them in the upcoming year, at least little steps. We're not going to get to the maybe the major goal on all of them, but I think that we can make steps on all of them. But my suggestion, I think we should pick 1 from each category and then maybe pick 2 from 1 or whatever. So I think crime, your first one, and same with
So sorry, the
first one,
enhancing the patrols.
Yeah, because basically you're enhancing your patrols based on crime trends and trying to reduce victimization.
Is that a ranking one? In other words, if you had to rank 1 to 5, is that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would be, I would think that's what I would pick if we had to pick 1 to put on the form. And then the roadways, waterways, and trails. I think the second one, because that's talking about your big 4 enforcement areas on the roadways. So I would suggest that one. And then community well-being. I personally think the third one, the MCERT, because we know mental health has a huge component in a lot of our calls. And so I do think that the MCERT program and improving our response to mental health and addiction-related calls is very important. So those are the top, would be 1 from each. And then if we wanted to, it depends which area we'd like to focus. Like I said, it says up to 5. So we can do 3, we can do 4, we can do 5.
Kathy, you want to jump in? Kathy, you had something to ask?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to echo Carl's comments. Like our priorities for 2026 ought to be data driven. So we can pull those from the long-term strategic plan, but in terms of which of those objectives under each category we ought to choose, I do think we need to go with the ones that are most concerning to Grey Bruce, our region, our detachment area. And so to choose those specific objectives, I would look to Marla to pick those based on what is most concerning, what is most prevalent, and the objectives under each, to choose the ones that you believe, Marla, would be most effective. So yeah, I think we're started on that direction, but rather than just selecting them sort of randomly, I think it's important that we hone in on the ones that are going to have the most impact on our residents.
Okay, maybe I didn't make myself clear, but I thought I was saying that those are the 3 that I think are the most important to Grey Bruce based on what I just said. Maybe I wasn't clear, I apologize. And just to make sure you guys are clear, this is the Grey Bruce Detachment Action Plan. It's not the OPP Detachment Action Plan. So these are the commitments and priorities that we identified for Grey Bruce specifically. It's not the OPP generally. There are 4 that were standard across the OPP, but the rest were identified as specific priorities here in Grey Bruce. So this is a Grey Bruce specific plan and priorities. Just to make sure you guys are clear on that.
So if we take the crime commitment, so it says enhance proactive patrol and or initiatives to target specific local crime trends and reduce victimization while increasing community safety. So there's 5 actions outlined from there. Are there anything specific in the actions where we could have data-driven measurements to know that we've enhanced proactive patrols?
Yes, so focus patrols, we can count the number of focus patrols we create.
So if I were to ask, what percentage increase in focus patrols would be reasonable over this year? We pick 20%. Would we have the data from previous years to line up with, if we set an expectation or a target of 20% increase in targeted patrols, would we have the data easily available to measure that
Yes, we track our
against?
focus patrols every year, yeah.
So what would be a reasonable target to increase those patrols? If we were to put a measurable action item in place?
I guess it depends on what the board wants, on how many more focus patrols they want. I mean, it's something we do consistently throughout the year. I don't have the number of what we did last year, so like, do you ever want to say 10%? Is that enough? Do you want more than that? I guess it's what the board thinks is reasonable.
Yeah, I'm cautious of just coming up with a random number as the board without having input from you to say, like, 3 a day is 1,000 over a year. I don't know if it's a number or a percentage or.
So a focus patrol, just to kind of make it a little more clear, is, perhaps there is ongoing crime,
Vandalism in Dundalk, yeah.
In Springmount, right? Lots of businesses are getting hit, so we create a focus patrol for that specific area for a 2-week period. So that would be considered one focus patrol, and then every day, members are assigned to do a focus patrol in that area. So we'd have one focus patrol, but then we have X number of hours dedicated to that focus patrol. So we could look at number of focus patrols or number of hours.
What do you feel better about in those two?
I think you could report on both,
Both, okay.
because you know how data is. And sometimes officers maybe don't necessarily assign their time properly. They might forget to add their hours.
You're gonna give them an incentive to do
For
that.
sure. So we can definitely identify the number of focus patrols, and then we can also allocate the hours. So we can say we did 20 focus patrols and there was 400 hours. So I think both would be good measurements,
Okay.
like in partnership.
Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but
No, it's yours, and I'll jump in later. Keep going. Then we'll let Kathy go, and I've got a few. So.
are we on the right track, Kathy, or?
I'm listening. Are we still looking at what kind of an increase then for focus patrols? I agree with the way Carl's going with this. Like we need to have smart objectives that are measurable. And we won't know if we have been successful if we don't identify a target like 10% more or 3 more or 4 more. So I think that is largely dependent on resources, but so Marla's input there is important. What have we landed on a measurable there?
Well, we landed on 2. We just don't know whether, we don't know.
Like 10%, is that fair? I don't know.
Is this just general policing? What I'm getting at, is it gut feel or is it based on stats?
So like I just said, we're seeing an increase in break-in-outers in Springmount. So we therefore create a focus patrol because we see there's a need for it there based on the calls for service and the information available to us. So we create the focus patrol. So it is data driven, calls for service driven. Or another example of the focus patrol is, we're getting a report of a lot of speeders on Queen Street in whatever town, right? So we create a focus patrol there to focus on that area and see if there is.
So how often would your leadership group be having those conversations about where you should focus patrols? Is that
It's ongoing.
daily, weekly, but there's not a once a month come together where you're looking at crime data or other stats?
No, because it depends on the trends. So we monitor the calls every day. And so if we see that, okay, there's been a little string, then we'll say, okay, let's create a focus patrol here.
How do you rank general duties? My experience is that especially new officers would be put on general duties, such as traffic.
All of our officers are general law enforcement at a detachment level. So traffic is part of their daily duties.
Yeah.
Call response, traffic, focus patrols.
I guess what I'm trying to understand here is when we start to throw out percentages, like, are they arbitrary? It strikes me when we talk about these special situations that come up, in Spring Mount as an example. Well, it might be here today and gone tomorrow, or not here today and arrive tomorrow. There could be 20 of these show up all at once, or there could be 0 show up, and your resources are finite. They're not, or they're limited to the extent that you have officers and so on. So we're here, okay, so we're saying that it's important when there's situations to develop to make sure that these issues are addressed. But we sit here and if we say, well, we want them increased by 10%, well, why do we want them increased by 10%? Is it because we feel there's been a deficiency of this in the past and you need to step up and do more? But once again, I mean, are we talking about a legitimate situation that exists today or one that transpires in the next 12 months? That's what I'm struggling to understand. And it strikes me at the end of the day, we're saying it's important that these events take place as needed. But we don't know how much that's going to be, do we? Do we have any way to predict what a crime ring of car thieves come into the area as an example, and you got to deal with those people?
Not really, not like what you're saying, but there's always little pockets of things happening throughout the area. We have a very big area. And we consistently have focus patrols on the go. So there's always something we can focus on. It just depends on, like you said, the timing. So maybe there is a big spree going and we have to identify what's our priority of the most, right? Because we can only be so many places at one time. And I just want to throw on the record that there's not an actual issue in Spring Mount. I threw that as an example.
No.
Just in case it gets out in the
I
world.
didn't mean anything negative about Dundalk, okay?
Right? I'm like, let's just make sure everyone knows that was just a place I threw in there.
I think it comes back to, it's outlined in the action plan, the commitment of the board and the commander is to enhance proactive patrol and initiatives. So in terms of addressing crime, Marla's commitment is to enhance these proactive patrols. And we're saying, okay, if that's the goal, if you're going to enhance the proactive patrols, how do we measure that we've enhanced it? And you're right, it's an arbitrary number, but we've already committed to enhance it. We're just determining how we're going to measure performance against that objective.
Well, okay, so is the first step to identify what these are, where they're needed and what they're needed for, and then eventually monitor the results that come from these patrols, enhanced patrols, as opposed to, once again, just pulling a number out and say, we want you to do 10% more. Well, I mean, that's where I'm struggling to understand what that means.
So do you need a better process to enhance, or that's already well ingrained in policing?
Yes, I think the problem with what you're saying there is we can't identify in advance like where the speeding issues are going to be reported or things like that. So I see what you're saying, but I don't know how we can capture what you're saying.
Kathy, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think I think when we make a decision on the 2026 action plan, it's going to be part of the evaluation process coming back. So for the group that does that, it's important for them to know what the current status is, and how we have accomplished an increase in, say, focus patrol over time. So we need to have the data for now, because the next time we look at whether we're achieving our objectives, we're going to say, okay, we started out with X number and now we've increased it by 10% or whatever the target is, and therefore we've been successful. So I know we're talking a lot about focused patrol. I just think it comes back to the data, right? We can't measure something unless we have a baseline. The other area that I would love us to focus on, if the committee is agreeable, is more public visibility. I forget the wording of that one. Just give me 1 second. It's up here somewhere. Yeah, I've lost it, but it has to do with more public visibility, because we do hear that from folks. They want to see in those specific targeted areas more of a police presence more often. So I wonder if we could consider that one as well. And or what do you think about that, Commander?
That was the second one that I did highlight, the first under the roadways, waterways, and trails. Proactive enforcement and visibility in our detachment area. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is. Thank you. And I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm on vacation, and sometimes my computer cuts in and out, so I miss the odd word. And I'm also trying to pull up documents with one screen and still appear on the video. So I do apologize.
No worries. So yeah, that is the priority that I identified under roadway, waterway, and trail. And I might not have read the whole thing. I did say focused on the big four, but that is a part of it.
Is that an easier one to determine targets for?
So just, if I can just go back to this one before I lose my train of thought. This is my thought on reporting it in after the year end. Here's how many we had last year. Here's how many we had this year. Is that low? Yeah, did it go up? Do you see an improvement? I mean, I don't know if that's too simple. I don't know if we have to, I guess that's up to you guys.
My sense is that seems to be the only way you can measure it. Did it go up or go down?
Yeah, but we could measure the amount. So if we set a target of 10%, are you going to change your behavior and approach to these proactive patrols? Or sorry, to the
Essentially what like I said, we do it, we identify when there's a need for a specific area, we create one. So we try to have a few going at one time. 10% might be perhaps doable.
it's not a huge amount, right? If you came in at 7, it's not. I can live with that. For Bob's like, I don't care.
Well, everything's got to be achievable. We said some stupid thing like 100%
Right, that's
increase,
not-
then we know we're talking out of our, and so certainly 10% is not, but it's arbitrary, and as long as we all understand that, it's a goal for improvement, right? Increase. So
yeah,
that's fine. I mean,
and then going to your question on the next commitment, I think you can just look at the numbers from the previous year, right? You can look at your seatbelt, speeding, impaired and distracted driving charges from the year before, and then look at the numbers from this year, and do you see an increase? So that's a very easy measurable, right? Speeding tickets last year was 1,000. This year it's 1,500.
And the reasons for that?
Well, no, I'm just throwing numbers out there.
Just throwing numbers out.
Yeah, I'm saying that's how you would measure it, right? Or was it 1,000 last year and it's 700 this year? Well, then obviously we're not meeting our commitment.
so again, under outcomes, it says increased number of data-driven patrol.
Yeah. So I guess you can still to look at the focus patrols, because we do, like I mentioned, speeding ones, if there's a stop sign issue, things like that. We do have those traffic-based focus patrols as well.
Okay.
I think we could also throw in the actual numbers in that outcome section.
Okay.
I will tell you, this was an OPP written one. That was their wording, because the first two under the roadways were their mandatory ones. So that was their wording. I didn't change it because that was mandatory.
Yeah,
So,
you're just going to be held to that.
yeah.
To that
Yeah. So those were two of the mandatory ones, but we could easily throw in the actual numbers of charges on each of the measurables there.
Within this category, there are different,
So it speaks to the big four.
right?
Yeah.
And the one that we've talked about previously, that you've expressed a challenge, is distracted driving, especially in the context where how does an officer even see that person driving down the highway at 80 kilometers an hour? It's going to be pretty tough. Yet we know statistically, so many accidents are created by distracted drivers. And I'm not sure what you could do specifically to increase the numbers. And you also commented, I recall, about the reluctance of officers to lay charges when they know the consequences can be so severe to those individuals, and there's so much subjectivity. Somebody's at a stop sign and they're plugging their phone in to charger, and are they distracted when they're, parked at a red light and you lay a charge because you saw them going for their wall? I don't know, but it's got to be, it's real easy when you got a radar gun on somebody and they're driving down the highway at 140 kilometers an hour to say they're speeding. So I guess from how, as part of your plan, can you improve those numbers specifically, knowing it's important that we discourage people? Is it more of an education of getting to the kids and the people that are out there with their phones in their hand that aren't using Bluetooth within their car or whatever? Or how do you set that goal when it is so challenging?
Yeah, that is one of the hardest ones, I would say, because like all the reasons you mentioned. So education is one of the things under the actions here, education through enforcement and media presence. So, getting the word out there about it. And then also our officers, like we continue to educate them on the importance of laying these charges because it can save lives. So yeah, that one number might not go up as high as you might like to see it, but I think we will still continue to see it increase. And I would also like to highlight, just as an aside here, we just had our Canada Road Safety campaign. I'm not sure if I've heard it in the news yet, but I think we ranked third in all of West Region in total charges here in Grey Bruce. So, they're out there, and then we have those specific campaigns throughout the year, and our officers always seem to really step it up for those provincial campaigns, just went above and beyond what they normally are out there doing.
Eat chicken and egg. So the more speeding patrols we do, the more charges would likely. Would you sooner measure charges or patrols? Charges. And that's data that's easily obtained. It's in our quarterly.
Yeah, because they can patrol and not write tickets.
And not write tickets.
Right.
Okay. So this does say increased number of data-driven patrols, but what we're looking at as our measurable is an increased number in charges of the big four.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's discretionary, whether they charge or otherwise.
Well, but so
It is, but I want to see more charges.
but what we're telling Marla
Yeah.
that we want to see more charges, and to see more charges, they need to be more focused in the outcome of their patrols, not just the patrols, in the outcome of them.
And that is some messaging that's been going out a lot to our members.
Kathy, you wanted to jump in? Kathy?
Just to lend support to what Carl is saying, it's the whole purpose of having this local action plan with objectives is to have some kind of outcome. And so we need to set fair expectations for Marla so that she can work towards those goals, and it's not arbitrary. So the next group that does an evaluation of this process doesn't look at it and go, the number didn't increase. we want to set her up for success, right? So we need to be clear that we're expecting to see more warrants, more tickets, not just more patrols.
And there's another, even from my own personal experience, I just in tech work, I was doing one of the advantages of having more patrols and more people pulled over is that some of the bad guys shouldn't be out there, and you've got an opportunity to stick your nose in the vehicle and see if that's somebody where there's no standing warrant or there's a court order not to communicate or things like that. So like I say, my experience is I think there's a lot of value in having more patrols.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. There's a secondary reason for it is what all I'm getting at, that she understands.
So on this one, rather than a percentage, are we okay with an objective that says increased number of charges year over year on the top 4 roadway hazards, whatever,
four charges, yeah.
big 4, whatever the language.
Well, I think that one's important to this region.
Is
To
it?
Grey Bruce.
I appreciate that's a little vague, Kathy, but are you okay with that language on there?
I think for the first year, because we don't have the data directly before us, I think that's the best we can do. But hopefully going forward, this committee or the board will look at the data to begin with and then decide what a reasonable increase would be. But for now, yeah, I'm happy with that.
And you feel you can positively impact that in your role?
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to also include increase in public awareness? Go to the high schools. I remember what comes to mind when I turned 16, took driver training, and then they'd put you in a room and they'd show you a film that was quite frightening about, the effects of car accidents and bad driving and so on. And it's great to lay charges, but if you can reduce the number of people that are, as specifically with this distracted driving, by making them aware, show them, if there's videos out there of accidents that were created because of a distracted driver to scare the hell out of these kids or anybody else that attends these sessions. So can we increase, make that part of it as well, an increase in that kind of activity as opposed to just, as difficult as it is, trying to lay charges when it's so hard to
Well, you're
detect.
focused on education is really the point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're talking about charges, and great, yeah, you charge more people for speeding, but we know it's not going to be easier for officers to do that with distracted driving. And if education is the important, surely there should be a goal and objective to do more public education in whatever method is available, and starting with young people starting to drive, and they're all using their phones.
I think you charge a couple of young people and the message is going to get.
Well,
Let
really-
Kathy jump in on this one. Kathy?
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, scare tactics have notoriously not been effective in terms of education. I know that from my public health days. There are issues about sending police officers sometimes into schools, and Marla can speak to this more effectively. I know globally there's some concern about that because it can trigger students. It needs to be something very carefully thought out. But also, education is only going to be so effective. I can guarantee you there's not a high school student who doesn't understand that being on their cell phone is a dangerous activity. So at what point do we say, okay, we've done enough education, we're hearing from it provincially, we hear from lots of other organizations about distracted driving. It's not that the students don't know. So I don't want to ask Marla's team to duplicate the work that's already being done. And also, if you go back to data-driven objectives, is it the high school students, the teenagers who are doing all the distracted driving? I bet my eye teeth that that's not the case. I think it's all age groups. So I think we need to be careful with our resources, and I think education is important, but I don't know. I'd ask Marla to comment. Is more education likely to be more effective in the area, for example, of distracted driving? Or do you think the word's out?
Or I could add to that, what type of education and the consequence, and not just the consequence, but the consequences of having your car towed and the financial, I'm extending it, but the financial penalties and the default, what happens when you can't afford it, the inability to drive to work because you can't drive, you lose your job, things like that, disobey court orders as a result. I mean, it just balloons and it just keeps going on and on. So it's the nature of the education is what I'm getting at it. I don't know how you're doing it.
So just going back to our last detachment board meeting when I had Cody Lyons, our community engagement officer here, and he explained that luckily here in Grey Bruce, he does have a good relationship and he is able to get into the schools. So he does go to our schools regularly and has that interaction with the students and can give different presentations. But I do agree that, you know, these four, big four, they're pretty straightforward. People know the consequences of them and the impact they can have. So I think that I agree we're past the point of education, and under our actions, we say education through enforcement, because I think that's where we're at and that's what they're gonna learn. And that's one of the conversations I had with our officers when I put a pressure on them in the fall to say I wanted to see increased traffic enforcement. And they said, oh, but you know, it's the time of year where it's all of our locals. And I said, sometimes they need that too. I said, because if it's a local not wearing their seatbelt or a local speeding, they're causing the same effect as, you know, a tourist. So I think it is the education through that enforcement at this point. And just an example of one of the education things we did though, at the schools, the Friday leading into the long weekend, we did a proactive ride program at the exits of the parking lot, had handouts for them, promoting driving sober, driving safely, you know, not distracted or impaired, as a reminder to all those teen drivers leading into the long weekend and the start to the summer. So we are still doing those education pieces, but I think that we're at the point that the enforcement on the highways is what our priority would be.
Kathy? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not sure I heard the detachment commander's comment correctly, but I sure hope that our police officers are not hesitant to lay charges for locals and just focusing on out-of-towners or tourists, because the law is the law and it doesn't matter who you are. If you live here or don't live here, you shouldn't get a pass.
100%.
Yeah, just wanted to be clear about that.
Yeah.
So increase the charges on the top four. Good with that?
Yeah.
Education through more charges.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Kathy?
So if I think it's okay to move on to a little different topic, but tell me if it's not. I'm wondering if I'm wondering if this is the time when we talk about public engagement to elicit their feedback on things like the problems in policing, or the need, not the problems, the needs that they're seeing. We can talk about data, and that's important. That's probably the most important. But I also think it's important to get the public's feedback, and I wonder if it's possible to build that into this action plan that we. I know, Marla, you've said in the past that there's a tool or a process that's OPP driven, where it's sort of standard across Ontario, but there are 5 questions that you can focus in on for your own area. I know other areas, like I think it's the town of Blue Mountains, have done this kind of public feedback or public engagement process. That would give us more information in terms of what to prioritize as local priorities as well. So is this something that can be added? I'm just asking Marla and the community or the committee members here, is that something that can be added to this action plan?
I think we talked about this at the last board meeting, and the survey that the OPP does, which would not cost the board any money. And if you want to do your own survey, that's going to take a lot of hours and money from the board to create that. So that's a board decision. I think that we do have that OPP one. We don't know when it's coming out. I can't recall what Staff Sergeant Anderson had said when she looked it up. But they do them in cycles of however many years. So it will be coming out again in the next coming years. So again, that would be a board decision if that's something they felt they wanted to do right away and invest the money and the time into it. But it would be some resources of your administrative team as well, which I'm not sure that that is something that's best suited for their time when we're talking about the pressures we're putting on the admin team. That would be another pressure to put on them.
So this is what we're developing today will be up for board approval. So we could add it as a recommendation. And if the board wants to make a decision at that time, they can. I just feels odd to me to be developing an action plan without direct public input. That's typically part of this process when you think about any strategic plan, for example. And I understand the constraints and the limitations, especially so late in the term, right? Because we have an election coming up in a few short months. But I think it's also important to get it down on paper. So maybe it would read something like an action plan is to look for the next opportunity possible to engage the public through the OPP survey forum. That gives us some flexibility, but it's on paper and it means that we're looking towards that process as soon as it becomes available to us in this region.
And she's got a good point there, because one of the functions that we have to keep in mind is that this board will terminate and a new board will start, and it's not all that far down the road. So we want to keep those wheels in motion, if that's something for the new board to consider. I happen to agree with Kathy on that.
And just to ensure you guys are aware, the community safety wellbeing plan, we did look at their priorities, and that was through a community survey as well. So there was a community feedback through that community safety wellbeing plan, which was done. They're just actually redoing it, I think, this year, because it's been a few years. So that's where we looked at the priorities that were in there, and ours do jive with those.
Kathy?
Oh, thanks for that reminder, Marla. That's really important, and that's a tool that's already in place. So maybe when I don't know who's taking notes there because I can't see, but probably Jody.
She is.
Maybe I'm wondering, like, I think it's at a county level, maybe the community safety plan, but perhaps we could make a recommendation that we review the questions being asked from a policing lens, or is there someone there? Is there someone at that table that develops that community safety plan? Well-being and safety plan that is connected somehow to our policing board, so they can have eyes on that and make sure the questions that are going out are specific to the needs of our police board. I don't know who sits at that table.
So the community, oh yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say through you, Chair Solers, member Monica St. Soares was appointed to that board, and an alternative member, Nicole Martin, to attend those meetings.
I also sit on the community safety wellbeing committee, and I'm on the crime prevention subcommittee as well. And there are representatives from all police services, all municipalities, pretty much every organization in Grey Bruce County. So there is a very widespread representation throughout Grey Bruce on that. The only exception would be Meaford. Meaford has their own community safety wellbeing plan. The municipality of Meaford, they're not included in the Grey Bruce one. But I will also add that theirs is very similar to ours, the priorities.
Yeah, it would be nice if before that survey goes out, that our police board have an opportunity to review that for some input. I don't know if that's possible with the way that committee is set up, but just to make sure we're getting the feedback we need to make a decision on our local action plan and priorities. So that's something that you could take forward on our behalf, or Jody, or whoever would be most appropriate.
I think the survey has already gone out. I was just looking to see if I have anything. I think it's too late for this one, but I will double check. I've just sent a message and I'll see if she gets back to me before we're done our discussion, but I'm pretty sure it's already been out. Are we done with that one, or do we want to move on?
Everybody done with that? Move on? Yeah, move on.
So then the community well-being one that I had highlighted was about the mental health. So continue to enhance and improve our response to mental health and addiction-related calls for service through our MCERT program and our police hospital transition protocol. So this one, we can look at wait times at the hospital and the number of calls that MCERT receives and how many they divert away from the hospital.
With respect to that point, were you measuring or do you have a statistic of the number of hours that are spent with police officers sitting around waiting at the hospital?
That is on our police hospital transition protocol form.
And is that going up or down, or how do you
I
measure
don't
that?
have that number right in front with me now. I'd have to look.
You trying to move away from having a police officer sit there and wait in the meantime?
Yes, the idea is to only bring those members to the hospital that actually need to be there. And so you should see that the number brought in, the majority are under a Form 1 because they actually need to be there.
Yeah.
So less members coming in and then being discharged from the hospital that they didn't need to be there. And that the officers are not there as long because we have that MCERT team that's liaising with the hospital and are part of the hospital staff.
Yeah. It's my own experience, and obviously you can comment on it, that there was a period of time where the police officer just waited around for the assessment for whatever reason, and then they would leave.
So we have
Seemed a lot of dead time, is a nice way of putting it.
we have a police hospital transition protocol, and it's based on the level of risk that's identified with the member that's brought in, low, medium, or high. So if it's a high level risk with that member, then we would stay for the safety of that person and the hospital staff. If it's a medium, it would just depend on the conversations between the hospital staff and the police, and if it's low, then the police are free to leave. And that's all outlined on the form that we developed with our local hospitals and police.
So effectively, you're measuring the number of hours that they're putting in.
That is one of the things.
Yeah. Kathy, did you have something on that? Did you want to say something on that, or any questions there? Go ahead.
Sorry, I do. My screen keeps freezing. I was just looking at the KPIs in the plan for that one. And the ones that Marla has mentioned are important. But I wonder if we might look at in trying to increase the number of, and I know this is challenging, believe me, from my mental health career background, I know it's challenging, but I wonder if one of our objectives ought to be increasing the number of folks who are accepting mental health services when offered by police. I wonder how you feel about that as a measurable.
Sorry, I'm just thinking it through. I'm just thinking how we would track that. At this point, members would go to a mental health call, and if it's determined that we don't have MCERT available at the time, we would ask them if they're willing for follow-up, and then we would give the referral to MCERT. I'm just trying to determine if we would have a way to track whether, I guess through MCERT stats, they would probably say whether that person says no to their services.
Or maybe it's the number of times it's offered, and I think I believe you're be collecting that data, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah, so a number offered versus the number when MCERT's actually engaged would show
So
that accepted.
should we include that as a measurable under this category? Because I don't think that's specified very clearly in the long-term action plan or strategic plan.
Yes, we can add that, no problems.
Go ahead, Carl.
I was just working through where the challenges might exist in an MCERT program. So the first one is funding and having enough availability of people to support that. And then their level of engagement with individuals in the field, and then wait times in hospital. What's your biggest pain point now? Is it not having enough? Is it wait times?
All of the above.
Well, I know this, but this is where MCERT has got lots of pain points, and the pain points for police are different than hospital.
I would say having enough MCERT, because if we have enough of them, then we're able to have more calls, and then we're able to divert them from the hospital, and then that kind of avoids us waiting at the hospital.
The funding's all held by Grey Bruce Health or
Right, Shores.
Right Shores now,
Yeah.
sorry. Don't have my brain rewired yet. And so do you have a role to play in advocating and applying for additional funding for that? Or is that entirely Bright Shores
So it's grant funding that we apply for.
to apply for?
Yes, and I can tell you, we're successful. We have another MCERT worker starting in Beeford. She just started. So we are moving from 2 to 3. So we were successful just recently.
That's a 50% increase in
Right.
hours, right off the, okay, so that's,
And then we also have, my understanding is there's another person in the background phase for like a casual filling in, so that if they're on vacation or sickness or whatnot, that person will be filling in as well.
so is there an opportunity in this funding cycle for another application, or is that kind of already passed?
I think it's a pass, and maybe in the fall, there might be another opportunity. We don't really know when the government puts out those grant calls. This was last year, but then it takes a while to, hear from the government sometimes to get that you were successful. So we just hired the person, and they just started within the last month, I would say.
Okay.
They're still training.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work down through that if that's where we can make the greatest impact.
Yes. I think so, because it kind of, the ripple effect, right? We get more MCERT workers. Hopefully we're able to help more people out in the field rather than having to get them to the hospital.
But the opportunity has already passed this for this cycle. Like to evaluate you in the next 6 months on your efforts to bring in extra MCERT funding would be unfair, because we've probably already.
Well, we've already brought one in the cycle, so. Officially, because they started, because this is for the whole year, right? And they started this last month.
Not to digress, but just you're talking about getting funding and grants. Do you have grant writers specifically allocated?
No.
It'd be Marla
Yeah.
and her team.
Or delegates.
And the reason I asked that, there was, this is funny, and you know how I'm going to this meeting in zone 5, and the question came around, why are we even going? There was supposed to be a speaker for about an hour about grant writing. And I wasn't even aware of that. And that was something I was looking forward to. And I think we're getting that at one of these conferences.
It's a specific skill. Like you
Oh,
have,
I know.
if you can hit the hot points within the evaluators, you stand.
Well, that's my point. I hope you're not missing any opportunity in terms of what grants are out there.
So we do have a grant support team within the OPP that was created in the last couple of years. So we have to draft the grants, and then we give them to them to review, and they give feedback. But we do have to write them.
Is there anything that we could do now to prepare ourselves for the next round of those?
Yeah, the point is, are we sure we're catching all the grants that are available is really the question.
And are we ready? Do we have a team ready to write the proposal the next time it?
One of my staff sergeants writes them, and we have been successful in the lab. That's how we got all of our MCERT workers. So it's basically having the data to support our need. So we just have to make sure we keep good data, and then obviously the writing, drafting of it.
Okay, and are there improvements that we need to make now around our data compilation to support that next grant application?
We have made changes in
Okay.
our data gathering.
Sorry, I asked a lot of questions, but I'm just trying to tease out where we can make the most impact on that in the future.
That makes sense.
Kathy, you want to weigh in with something on that? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I would just support those comments, and I don't know if we need to build it into this action plan or not, or if it's just good thinking and good discussion, but we could, add something like continue to be vigilant.
I was going to say, be vigilant on the number of grants and the type of grants and
Yeah.
the process.
It's documented. I'm sure Marla and her team are doing everything they can and not missing opportunities, but it might be an interesting part to add to the action plan.
Yeah, I agree with
And
that.
I don't want to leave this conversation if there's more to be said about grants, but I'm just looking at KPIs for the mental health section. We have some in our long-term strategic plan, and one of those that we've discussed is response times. But what about other ones? Can we track the percentage of mental health calls that are resolved without arrest and without use of force? Because those are good measurables too, to tell us if we're doing a good job in helping those in the community with mental health issues.
Yes, because we have the number of mental health calls that we respond to, and then also the number of apprehensions. So we can tell the number that were dealt with without an apprehension. Force, that's a little bit more tricky. We'd have to look at use of force reports. It's possibly doable, but I think that apprehensions and mental health calls should be sufficient.
Okay, can we add that then? Whoever's taking notes, can we make sure that gets added as a measurable? I wondered too about the number of welfare checks completed, or is that tracked along with the cert?
Number of what, Kathy?
I don't know if our police do just like welfare checks, like our paramedics sometimes do when they're called in. Like if there's a known mental health issue, you're not going there necessarily because there's potential crime, but just maybe checking in on someone who's had some difficulties lately. Is that something that our officers even do, Marla? I might be off base on this.
Yeah, we call them a check on well-being. If someone calls in concerned about a family member or a friend, saying, I haven't heard from this person for a few days, we're worried about them, or, I was there visiting, they seem to be struggling, I'm worried about them. So those would be good calls that we would go and we would take that MCERT worker with us. So yes, we do those calls when they are called into us.
So is that part of what's specified as a measurable for this particular objective, is the number of welfare checks, or whatever you call them, wellness checks, welfare checks completed? Is that something the committee wants added to that one, just so that we have as robust measurements as possible? Even just time spent on mental health related calls is, again, I'm thinking that's already tracked, but if we don't have things like this listed as measurables, it's difficult to evaluate this down the road.
Yes, they would fall under the mental health hours, like the calls or the time spent on mental health calls for sure.
I'm thinking back to the presentation that we recently had from those folks. And as I recall, it was trying to find ways that they could take responsibility, identify in consultation with the police officer that this is a case that they could deal with and that the police officers didn't need to be involved in. So I'm just wondering the ratio of number of calls related to addiction and mental health, and how many of those get handed off. And the more people you have, more resources are available. It struck me when there was only 2 that there's a lot of calls, and your other officer that spoke and made the comment that if you'd asked him 10 years ago if he'd be so involved with this, he would have laughed at you or something to that effect. So we're seeing a shift here. And I think what we're trying to achieve is to route these calls in an appropriate way to people that have skills to deal with these people, help these people and get them to where they need to, that aren't necessarily going to require ongoing involvement with policing. And if that's the case, can we establish sort of a benchmark as, okay, we're gaining because we've got more people and these people are working more effectively, so less involvement with policing is required for the number of calls that there are. Maybe the call numbers go up, maybe they go down, but what percentage are reduced in terms of policing involvement? Is that a measurable statistic that we could look at and say, yeah, this MCERT program with Bright Shores is really making it easier for you guys to get on with your work and not do things that you don't need to do or be involved where you don't need to be?
That's a tricky one because we go to all the mental health calls first to make sure they're safe. So police are engaged in every call.
Right.
And then to say how many hours are saved by MCERT, I don't know how we would track that other than the hours at the hospital. And we are able to track how many hours are spent at the hospital, but I don't know how we would track the number of hours we saved working on a mental health call that MCERT took over for.
But you could track, like if OPP are going to everyone, that's 100%.
Yeah.
Right? And then if MCERT are supporting 40% now,
Yeah.
and you've got a new person coming in, next year they're supporting 62%.
Yeah.
That's a clear improvement in the ratio of mental health calls supported by MCERT.
Okay, so number they just go to. I thought you meant how many they take over from us and we don't have to be involved.
The percentage, right? If right now MCERT are able to support 40% of those calls, but with your extra person, they can now support 60%. That's a huge win for.
Right. But aren't there stages, like, okay, so maybe I'm wrong on this, but like, everybody doesn't need to go to the hospital?
No.
So, okay, if I recall the presentation, there are times when the police could say, okay, you've got this under control. That lady spoke and said, hey, we can assess this and we can say, okay, police officers, you can leave now. You don't need to hang around the house here because we're not all going to take you to the hospital, or there is a need to go to the hospital. The police officer doesn't need to go. That's what I'm sort of wondering about, is if there's a way to measure that, because an hour is an hour. If that police officer can leave because there's another call that they can take that they should be at, as opposed to because of this MCERT program, is that possible for them for you to measure that we're at the call, fine, we have to be here, but the MCERT person arrives, they deal with it, they say, I got this under control, take off, you can go do what you need to do.
And Kathy wanted to jump in with something on that?
Yeah, just to be succinct, and maybe Marla can comment. I think what we're looking for is, for example, the percentage of mental health calls that are resolved without arrest, right? And that gets to Carl's point about using MCERT and how much time and effort and resources it can save us in policing, so that we're more successful in our grant applications for these kinds of things going forward. So it's about good data collection. So percentage of mental health calls resolved without arrest. I'll get Marla to comment on that, but also the percentage of calls diverted to healthcare, mental health, for example, or other healthcare instead of jail. So that gets to the diversion of the resources to where they really ought to be, and saving our police resources for what we need them to be. Is that data collection possible, Marla?
I just want to clarify your second point. You said diverted to other places, other than jail or hospital?
Yes. Percentage of calls diverted to healthcare instead of, arrests or jail. I'm not entirely
Divert to
sure.
jail.
Instead of jail, percentage of calls diverted to healthcare or mental health care instead of the criminal court jail system. That's the goal, right? Is to handle mental health in the, obviously if there's a crime, then that's something different, but
I know what she's asking.
Yeah, I just don't know the data for that.
I think she's asking, are you assessing whether or not there's a criminal activity, or is
So if there's a criminal offense committed, we're still charging. And then they might be diverted to mental health.
That's what she's getting at. That
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I don't know about the data for that, though, to say how many people were diverted from the criminal justice system because of MCERT. Because if there's a criminal offense there, we're still putting them through the criminal justice system. So I don't know, we could say the number that are diverted from the hospital that are dealt with by MCERT in the field rather than having to go to a hospital, rather than being apprehended and going to a hospital. But I don't know about diverting them from the criminal justice system, if we would be able to track that properly.
What do you want to measure? Sorry, we're going in circles.
Yeah, I think diverting from the hospital is a big one.
Percentage?
Yeah, like,
Percentage?
yeah,
Okay.
and then like, member Coburn said, the number of MCERT referrals that were accepted. And then we, like I said, the hospital hours, like, are we seeing a decrease in the hours that officers are spending at the hospital? Because then they are back out in the community instead of being at the hospital.
So those three measurements.
I think the only way you can measure on the criminal side is what the result was, whether the charge,
Sorry.
whether there was a conviction or otherwise. In other words, it's a big step to get that
To prove
answer.
that there was the mental health part of it. Yeah, that it's just, we think it'll be tricky to track.
Yeah.
Think about that one.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but I still think that, like, okay, when someone commits a crime, if that happens, you have to do your job. But what we heard from these folks was that, okay, there was an assessment took place, collaboration with the police and the certain people, to establish if there was a health and safety issue, and if that person can be calmed down. If they're not, and they need to be restrained or whatever, the police officer has to stay involved, right? But that's before any crime has been committed or any charges would be contemplated for a crime committed. It's like, okay, the MCERT person's got this, they've made an assessment, this person's under control, they can deal with them, and now the police officer is free to move on because that assessment's been properly achieved. And if that could be done more effectively, then it's in the hands of the MCERT and the police officers move on. I think that's where I'm coming from, as opposed to, I get it. If somebody's shooting a gun or waving a knife or breaking the law, then that's a given, right? But I don't know how you can change those stats. If it happens that way, it happens that way, doesn't it?
So I think what you're saying, that we can track that with the number of calls that MCERT was engaged in and the percentage that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
The
that's one of the things
effectiveness
that-
of the MCERT and the resources, more of them. It just struck me that, like, how do two people deal with all of this whole area? Three is 50% better, but if this program can be proven to really be effective and make police officers' time more efficiently spent, that's a huge stat that we want to make known.
Kathy?
Just a question for Marla. Do we want, and the committee too, do we want to look at use of force by police officers with our mental health population? Is it an issue, and is it something we need to reduce? So like a reduction in use of force, and maybe seeing more efforts in de-escalation instead? Is it a problem? And if it is a problem, is there a way to track how we can make improvements in that area?
My opinion is it's not a problem. I think our officers have very good de-escalation skills and training. I see every time use of force is used, I get a notification in our detachment. And I can say that I'm very happy with our officers. I think they do a great job of de-escalating for the majority of times. And the times they do have to use force, they've tried that de-escalation and it hasn't worked. Or the person is so far gone, you can't reason with them. So I personally do not think that that is an issue that we need to look at. But again, I leave that to the board.
Maybe we could word it this way then for the action plan, to continue to focus on de-escalation measures instead of use of force where possible in interactions with individuals with mental health issues. Is that fair to say? So we're not looking for anything to change. We're not looking for a decrease in that because as you say, the officers are already doing a good job, but it does document that we've talked about it and that it's on our radar. And how did the committee members feel about wording it that way then?
I think that's a good idea, actually. Anything further on this one?
If we're done with this, and I did hear back from the coordinator for the Community Safety Wellbeing Committee, and she said, yes, the survey has been done. Georgia College is just doing the first analysis of the data, and they should have some preliminary data to share at the end of June for the updated Community Safety Wellbeing survey.
Kathy?
So this comment is not directed to anyone attending here, but it would have been nice for our board to have, or maybe our board did have some input if we have a member that's attending. So I'll retract that comment. I wonder if how do we, is there some way of adding this to our action plan that we look at the results of that survey that's coming out in that plan and take those into consideration for future iterations of the local action plan?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Future board.
That's right.
It may be.
Do you want to move on?
So those are 3. Are we happy with 3? Do we want to do more? It says up to 5, so.
You happy with 3?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Like, this is not a negotiation, but it impacts your focus and work over the next.
I'm happy with those 3. If you guys want to add more, I can identify another.
From my perspective, I'm happy with 3, given that we're almost into June and we don't want to, in 6 months, we don't want to make our goals unachievable and put too much more added pressure onto the police services. That's how I feel.
But can I just say, the other 2 areas would be something with respect to our people, so recruitment or staff wellness or something along those lines. And the other, I think we've got partnerships covered through the MCERT. So in terms of your external relation partnerships, I think we've got that covered, but we don't have anything with respect to our people. That might be, I think I'll look to you to comment on any hotspots there that you might want to spend time and attention on in the next 18 months.
So there is one under the community well-being, identify local strategies and actively recruit qualified local candidates from our community who may be interested in a career in policing. So we can add that as one if you think.
Yeah, I saw that one. I didn't know if there were any specific initiatives or things underway that your involvement or influence would make a difference.
So we have local recruitment nights. That's one of the big ones. We try to do those locally to attract local people because the OPP has a recruitment unit. However, obviously, Ontario is a big province. We have one unit that does recruitment for the whole province. So we try to do our own local initiatives to help us here. So that's one of the things that we do. We've done a civilian police academy. We did that last year. Again, getting people into the room. It was like a 6-week session. They got to see different parts of policing to see if it was something they were interested in. So those are the types of things that we could do in this to as the actions.
Is there anything in there that you're excited or passionate about that?
I am very passionate about local recruitment because the OPP has a rule that new recruits have to stay in a detachment for 3 years. And then once you've completed your 3 years, then you can move on elsewhere. So our goal is to recruit people that are from here, want to be here, has ties to the area, so then they want to stay here, right? They don't leave after their 3 years and go back to wherever they're from. So I am actually quite passionate about it because it's hard to believe because it's such a beautiful area, but it is sometimes hard to retain people here that aren't from here. People that are from the city are used to the conveniences of city life. It's sometimes hard to keep them. So the local efforts are one of my passions.
That one feels good as a board initiative to support that work.
And I think on this one, the board can play a part in this too, right? You can all be recruiters for the OPP. And you know, if you know someone that you're talking to someone that's interested, and refer them to our.
He's a good grant writer too. You never know.
So,
Written
yeah.
a couple, but that's.
I have to.
With these recruitment sessions, and I've not attended one, so my question is, are these more geared to people who are ready to jump into policing and be hired right away, or are they orientation sessions for young people that might consider, with all the other choices they have from a career standpoint, what's policing all about? What should I do if I get serious about policing? What education should I get? What extracurricular activities should I participate in? Is that something that's being done, or is it more the you're hiring kind of situation?
I would say both, because they tell you all the stuff you just mentioned. They go through all that, what you need if you're considering it. And if you're at the point where you're ready to apply, it's very relevant. But even if you're that 18-year-old kid getting ready to go to post-secondary, it's nice to see the process of what you need for when you are ready. So it goes for both.
And how do they find out sessions are taking place? Is there, if they're graduating from high school, thinking about their choice for next year at college or whatever, how do they find out about this? What's the
Social media, and then the news media. Our community engagement officer puts them out that way. We also go through Georgia College to let them know. And we've even gone there and done presentations to their Police Foundations class. But yeah, media is how we get it out there.
What about high schools? Because once they're already in the Police Foundations course, they're more or less already thinking that way. What about the grade 11 and 12 students that are wrestling with this whole career choice thing? And do you ever do any of that? Come and talk about policing and what it involves in the high school when these kids are at that stage?
So our civilian police academy was geared to that age, and we sent it out to all the schools and said if there's anyone who's interested, apply. And we took 20 kids and had them at this session that was, we talked all the different things that the OPP offers, different things you can do in policing, and there was a night on the recruitment process and how to apply. And then going to the Police Foundation class, just a point on that, they're in Police Foundations, but they can go anywhere, right? So we want to sell to them why they want to come to Grey Bruce and to the OPP. But yes, I think there's definitely use in going into schools and being part of Career Day. That's one of the things that they still do that.
The Career Day. They have, I assume, still.
I think so.
You would hope so, because these kids, I can't imagine how difficult it is to them to make decisions about their careers today. I mean, these jobs, didn't even exist when we were looking for jobs, so.
Kathy, did you have anything to add? Because I think we're kind of skimming over number
Yeah.
4, but go ahead.
No, I just wanted to move us along a little bit. I think.
Thank you.
There's been a suggestion that the board would like to see continued efforts in recruitment and officer support and well-being. And I think that's important. So let's.
Thank you.
add
Let's,
that for Carl's suggestion.
good. Let's move it on. Was there a 5th one we wanted to look at? Are we happy with 3?
That's 4.
4?
I would just
Yep.
ask Marla, we're not represented at this committee level from the First Nations community, but is that something the board would like to see as a continued priority, that we continue to build relationships, continue to offer cultural awareness training and education? Is that something that we ought to emphasize for this as well? Not that we're looking for necessarily anything more than we're already doing, but just to keep it on everybody's radar. Marla, I would just ask maybe your thoughts on that as well.
Why don't we start with Marla's thoughts?
Yes, we can add that as number 5.
Your thoughts, Carl? Agree, disagree? I happen to agree. Cultural awareness.
Yeah, I think we did great with the 4. If you want
I
to
think
add
so.
5, it's fine.
Did you want that on as number 5, Catherine?
Or I wonder if we could word it just generally as continue to see support of our police services members in well-being opportunities, training, and then under training, we can mention cultural sensitivity and First Nations relations, just to make it a more general, supportive objective for our police services members.
I know one of our other board members alluded to that with me. So I think there's some element of importance there. Your thoughts, Marla, could that be at?
Yes, absolutely.
If there's any harm?
Sorry?
I said, I don't think there's any harm in that. I think it's a good idea. So we should go with what we've got. We've got the 4 and that add-on. Bob?
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair,
I'm fine. Yeah, no.
Yeah, Kathy?
not to rush things along, but I'm just wondering from staff and from the committee, how will this document be formatted? It'll be, I imagine it's a standalone document aside from the longer, more strategic plan. And when this has to go back to the board, so it will be much like the same format we already have for the long-term one, where we have the objective and the outcomes or the measurables or KPIs. Is that what we're thinking? Is there already a format that's recommended and used? I just want to make sure the public understands that we have the long-term strategic plan, but now we have a local action plan for 2026, and that they ought to be separate.
So this is, what this meeting's about is the detachment commander performance feedback form. So this goes under number 3. And this is what you guys will what part of the assessment of my yearly feedback.
But it's more than, isn't it more than that, Marla? Like it is used to do your evaluation, and that's post-session material. But is it not also an action plan that we make public so that the members of the public know what it is that we are aiming towards? Aside from your performance, it's just what the board's priorities are for this year?
So that is the big document that we just took those from. That is our action plan. It's the 2026-2029 Grey Bruce Detachment Action Plan. And that is what's published. And every year I have to do an annual report on that.
Right. So my understanding from Policing Governance Ontario is that we do a separate document that identifies this year's goals. When I look at it like council, we have a long-term strategic plan that covers a few years, right? But when we meet yearly, we decide what the priorities are that year, and that's where we're putting our resources into. So we're drawing from that long-term plan. Some of those objectives we may not get to or look to for 2 or 3 years, but we want to identify the business plan for the current year, and that would be a standalone public document. Am I misinterpreting this, or how have the others on the committee interpreted that?
I can tell you that's not the standard way the OPP does it. It's a 3-year plan, and we report on that plan each year of those 3 years.
It'll be the outcome of this meeting. So there's minutes, but one of the things that'd be helpful is just a table or a page that showed the 4. Is that what you're looking for, Kathy? Would that help improve the usability of the document?
Go ahead, Jody.
Review, Chair Solers. Yes, it will be included on the detachment commander performance review form under section 3 as the detachment commander has outlined, which will come back to the full board for review and approval.
Kathy?
I wonder if, I don't intend to attend any of the upcoming forums that the police governance PGO is providing, but I wonder if that could be a question for them, or Jerry, if you have a contact there to ask, what are other boards doing about the local action plan, and is that a public facing document? I just want to make sure we're being transparent. I understand that this is one tool that we would use in the performance appraisal process, but I would be interested to know what the association thinks about the use of this tool and transparency for the public in terms of these being our goals.
Well, that's
Is there
something that's something you and I can talk about. I think probably going to Janine wouldn't do any harm.
Is that something you can do, Jerry, just to make sure we're when we take this back to the board, we may be asked this, and I just want to be clear. I understand from the policing perspective, it's entirely just to be used as a tool for evaluation, but that's not necessarily how I see it. So I wonder if we could ask you as the chair to reach out to Janine or whatever contact would be appropriate from
The appropriate contact at the association would be Janine.
Okay.
We can do it. How about I talk to you later about this? Just in terms of what the wording going up to Janine is that okay?
Sure. I think it's just as simple as we've decided on our local action priorities for 2026. Is this a standalone public facing document, or is this just used in closed session as part of the evaluation tool? I don't know that we need to have any more discussion than that, unless I'm missing something.
Carly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I guess pending the outcome of what PGO recommends, the local action plan is a public facing document, and it's supposed to be posted online. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us just to highlight which of the priorities that the board has prioritized under the link where we have that local action plan for the public's viewing. So just, a brief highlight to say, here's the broader local action plan and a summary that says, these are the ones that we've prioritized for the current year. So we could highlight that and make it available to the public. But if PGO says that, there's a recommendation that it's to be a separate document, then we'll take that direction.
Thank you.
There's already a table that exists in the big document. It's just, as you said, just taking those 4 things, cutting and pasting them into a new table and saying, these are our 2026 priorities. Keep it simple.
Because
I agree, except I think we've added some measurables. We've added some additional wording aside from what's in the original document, the long-term document.
And sorry, I know I said that this is for the feedback, but also I will be reporting on all of these in the Detachment Board annual report.
You'll be reporting on the big list.
Yes, which these are part of.
Yeah.
So I will be reporting on the outcomes of all of these in the 2026 Detachment Board annual report.
So did you want me to go back to Janine on this?
I don't think it would hurt, Chair. I don't think it would hurt to get her opinion on this, but I like Carly's suggestion very much in the meantime about how we word it on the link on our website, and then we can change it if we need to.
You want to give me that wording, Carly, and then I can after this? Okay. Okay, I'll take that back to Janine. Carly and I will work on that. Anything further at this point? Guess not. Are we moving into closed session, Madam Administrator?
Just one.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Carl.
Just remind me the timing of when we go through that larger form and evaluate the outcomes against our targets today.
So the actual action plan or the detachment commander feedback?
Yeah, the feedback.
This is new for me too.
Yeah. For all of
I
us.
think by the end of December, the last meeting is when the board is supposed to have their feedback to me. Then I add feedback in.
This committee's done before then, right?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jody.
For you, I believe we will be completing that in the August meeting so that it can go back to the September. Oh, it will be. The subcommittee will likely meet though in August, and then it will go to the September board meeting,
Okay.
which will be our last.
Right, this is just the standard SOP for it, but I guess because it's an election year, that will change.
So you got 8 weeks to,
A lot of hands to go through.
well, this, yeah, I mean, without getting into too much, it's a frustrating process given the timing and the way it's rolling.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's called the timing.
Yeah.
We've got deadlines, the end of May on one, end of June on one, and then we're getting close to the end of the board, to the election. Where do we go from here? Into closed?
Oh, do we look for?
It was just happens to be on the agenda. What for? Is there a reason to go into closed?
It's supposed to be the initial review, evaluation, feedback.
Can we do it
If
in
you have no
open?
feedback, we don't have to go to closed.
Jody, what's your thought?
It has to be in closed,
Okay,
if you were going to do any feedback.
yep, you okay with that, Kathy? Yeah, we talked about it, so we'll go into closed.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Okay, so we'll go into closed. So if I may, the Grey Bruce Detachment Board now moves into the closed session at, and the time is 11:31 PM in the Township of Jordan and Bluffs Council Chambers with the Director of Corporate Services, who's probably out of the room right now, Deputy CAO, Manager of Legislative Services, Clerk, Board Administrator, and the Detachment Commander remaining in the room to discuss open meetings exemption B of section 44.2 of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, initial review, detachment commander performance feedback. Is there a mover? Vice Chair moves it. Is there a seconder? Member Ellis seconds it. Any discussion? I think we're going into closed at this point.
Through you, just call the vote.
Pardon me?
Through you, Chair Solar, the vote just needs to be called.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? We have a note up there saying waiting for others to join, but it's carried. We still have a quorum.
Georgian Bluff has a lot of activities to do. It's really nature driven, and it's like the community is very nice, very friendly. And a lot of the locals come here every single day and they think of it as their therapy.
We're the Farouk family. We started farm on the lake, and the community, everybody around it, the support structure, the township has actually made us to who we are today. And now that we have this set up, this whole operation is well received by the community. People drive down from far, far away to do camping, glamping with us.
A lot of people come from far away to see the goats, and they're really amazed. Sometimes we feed the babies in front of them.
When we think about Georgian Bluffs, it's really the Reiki forest bathing that comes to my mind. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and we were looking to bring our people for a retreat, and this property just popped up, and we realized that behind it's a beautiful forest. Every time we are driving up, I feel so relaxed. The air is amazing.
If you're an outdoor enthusiast, there's never-ending things to do. There's the hiking all over through the escarpment. There's the bay, the water, if you're into water sports or sailing. And of course, pickleball is growing fast and it's all over the place right now. So there's lots to do.
What we enjoy the most about Georgian Bluff is having access to the beautiful nature around us, the cultural impact from the First Nations to the local artists.
The trails and so many great things to do, and lots of business opportunity here, and tourism as well to support our business.
First off, what I love about the area is the scenery. It's absolutely beautiful. Like, it's right in the name of the municipality, the Bluffs. Another thing too that I noticed from living through here is all the small communities throughout Georgian Bluffs. They're very unique and they might be very small, but we're very big with heart. Everybody looks out for each other, takes care of each other, and just the way locals support locals. So the ability to have a local business and prosper is very apparent here in Georgian Bluffs.
People are more genuine here. People are more sincere. They're kind. They know the word please and thank you. It's the way life used to be. It's more simpler. You feel like you're part of something.
The township of Georgian Bluffs as a municipality is proud to serve its residents, whether it be looking after infrastructure, looking after our roads, grading our gravel roads, looking after our parks, our trails, our community centres, our ice arena, or providing the services that residents rely on every single day when they come to our township offices. I'm proud to lead a team which is here serving the residents of Georgian Bluffs every single day.
What we'd like to see Georgian Bluffs going forward is really, more people coming to experience this beautiful energy, this relaxed energy, because over here in Georgian Bluffs, I can hear the wind, I can hear the trees talking. It's just amazingly relaxing.
Welcoming more people, yet with the same foundation and principles of community, of respect, and of morals.
It would be great for Georgian Bluffs to continue to support, nature and the beauty that we have here, and to keep our area clean and beautiful.
I hope to see more local businesses, more sustainable living, and more families just moving up here and living and prospering off their land and their property.
For me and my family, Georgian Bluffs means being close to nature. Having the escarpment to hike and the water of Georgian Bay at our doorstep is something that draws us to being part of this community. The family-friendly neighbourhoods, the fact I can connect with my neighbours and see them on the street and say hello, and I know the people I'm seeing each day, is something which for me is something I treasure and my family treasures about being in Georgian Bluffs.
are Dirk and Alma DeVries, and we are coming to you from Dual Acres. This is a beautiful property in Georgian Bluffs that we own, and we run horse-drawn sleigh and carriage rides from.
So today we're going to have Dan and Juliet. Dan's a 12-year-old gelding and Juliet's a 12-year-old mare. Come on, Dan. When people come here, we invite them to come back to our shack, and they will go in there and they can get ready to go, get dressed, whatever they need to do, and stay warm till the ride event starts. And then we bring the horses out of this sleigh shed here, and they get on, and we take them roughly for a 40-minute ride, all through hardwood and softwood bush. So the whole experience is in woods. We return here, we drop them off here. They can go in, and there's a big wood stove in there. They warm up, and if they so desire, they can also enjoy a cup of hot chocolate. We build all our own sleighs, and there's a reason for that. Is sleighs in Ontario came with a width, a stance with a runner width of 3 feet, and that was designed to work in the bush and whatnot. But a 3-foot stance is very tippy when you get people. People are like hauling water. There's always a second motion, and that second motion is the motion that'll tip the sleighs. So I rebuild all the sleighs to a 4-foot wide stance, and that's very stable. You cannot tip them. Our sleighs are also adaptable to handle wheelchairs, which we discovered early. There was that need there that people with disabilities need, that we needed to provide.
We've done lots of charity work. We did Santa sleigh ride here on the farm. That actually helped really for people to be aware that we were here. But we always have a passion, especially for children with special needs. That was one way that we were able to give back to the community. Every year we host a ride here for the GRACE program, which is the Georgian Riding Association for Challenged Equestrians.
Horses and dog sleds are exactly the same. If you want the horse or the dogs to go right, you say gee. If you want them to go left, you say ha. I've done thousands of rides and I never get tired of it because it's the horses that are the enjoyment. And the people are, we have people from all over, and there's so many different stories and so many good people out there that you meet.
I hope that when people come to our farm here and enjoy a sleigh or wagon ride through the bush, that they enjoy the bush, the beauty of nature here, and just go away feeling relaxed and rejuvenated.
The Welcome Package is a tool that was developed by GB Lip's subcommittee community. It was a tool that was supposed to be used for municipalities to share information with new residents, specifically immigrants coming to their communities, in a consistent way across Grey and Bruce counties. And what's great about it is the package was actually translated into multiple different languages.
As my own personal lived experience as an immigrant, not everything was accessible to me with the click of my hand. But the welcoming package, if you look up the municipality website, all the information that you need about the schools, about the local hospitals, about the local grocery stores, about the settlement service provider in your area. So I think it is a one-stop shop for all your settlement needs.
Georgian Bluff has a lot of activities to do. It's really nature driven, and it's like the community is very nice, very friendly.
We started farm on the lake, and the community, everybody around it, the support structure, the township has actually made us to who we are today.
Every time we are driving up, I feel so relaxed. The air is amazing. I can hear the wind, I can hear the trees talking. It's just amazingly relaxing.
If you're an outdoor enthusiast, there's never-ending things to do. There's the hiking all over through the escarpment. There's the bay, the water, if you're into water sports or sailing. Of course, pickleball is growing fast and it's all over the place right now. So there's lots to do.
What we enjoy the most about Georgian Bluff is having access to the beautiful nature around us, the cultural impact from the First Nations to the local artists.
First off, what I love about the area is the scenery. It's absolutely beautiful. Like, it's right in the name of the municipality, the Bluffs. Everybody looks out for each other, takes care of each other, and just the way locals support locals. So the ability to have a local business and prosper is very apparent here in Georgian Bluffs.
People are more genuine here. People are more sincere. They're kind. They know the word please and thank you. It's the way life used to be. It's more simpler. You feel like you're part of something.
It would be great for Georgian Bluffs to continue to support, nature and the beauty that we have here, and to keep our area clean and beautiful.
For me and my family, Georgian Bluffs means being close to nature. Having the escarpment to hike and the water of Georgian Bay at our doorstep is something that draws us to being part of this community. The family-friendly neighborhoods, the fact I can connect with my neighbors and see them on the street and say hello, and I know the people I'm seeing each day, is something which for me is something I treasure and my family treasures about being in Georgian Bluffs.
Georgian Bluff has a lot of activities to do. It's really nature driven, and it's like the community is very nice, very friendly. And a lot of the locals come here every single day and they think of it as their therapy.
We're the Farouk family. We started farm on the lake, and the community, everybody around it, the support structure, the township has actually made us to who we are today. And now that we have this set up, this whole operation is well received by the community. People drive down from far, far away to do camping, glamping with us.
A lot of people come from far away to see the goats, and they're really amazed. Sometimes we feed the babies in front of them.
When we think about Georgian Bluffs, it's really the Reiki forest bathing that comes to my mind. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and we were looking to bring our people for a retreat, and this property just,
That's why you're sitting down there and staying away. I should have worn my mask.
I'm sure I'm past the contagious point at this point.
Ready to go. Okay. Recommendation is that the Gray Bruce OPP Detachment Board Subcommittee returns to open session, and the time now is 11:57 a.m. Do we have a mover? Member Ellis moves it. Do we have a seconder? Vice Chair seconds it. Any discussion? None. Vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Passed. Anything left?
Just a quick word that I'm unable to attend the next board meeting, Jerry. Just thought I'd let you know.
I can't hear you, Kathy. We got to get the volume up. There we go. Try it again.
I just wanted to let you know, and the folks there know that I'm unable to be at the next board meeting. So I have sent that notice off to Jody as well.
Okay, they heard you.
Thank you.
I think we're pretty much at the end. The board went into closed session upon meeting exemption B of section 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act to discuss and complete the initial review of the detachment commander feedback. And the date of the next regular meeting of the Gray Bruce OPP Detachment Board is the 26th of May, 2026. That's next week at 9 a.m. Recommendation is that the meeting be adjourned today at 11:58 a.m. Is there a mover?
I'll move it.
Vice Chair moves and seconded by Member Ellis. Thank you very much. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Opposed, if any? None? Passed. We're adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, goodbye. Go to